Welcome everyone to another video podcast, PJS Live Dialogue. Thanks guys for tuning in, listening, whether you're listening on the podcast or just even listening on YouTube. Maybe you guys are just listening to the audio, not watching it, but I appreciate it. And for those of you who haven't subscribed, hopefully you guys subscribe to the channel. Follow me here. I got another special guest, all right? Old buddy of mine. Let me bring him in here. This is Pastor Hanley Liu, all right? He and I are old friends. We go back to Talbot days. We both went to the greatest school, the greatest seminary in Southern California, Talbot School of Theology. And Hanley and I, we're also old Shepherds Conference buddies. We were like, I think the only people from Talbot that actually went. And you know what's funny is that you and I actually started to get to know each other better because we saw each other as Shepherds, and then we continued to see each other every year as Shepherds. But man, that was good. So, are you still going out to Shepherds Conference?
No, I haven't been in a long time.
Me
I
neither.
want to say
Me
I
neither.
haven't been in like 8 years.
Yeah, you know it was like I went for like I think I almost went for 11 or 12 years in a row, and then I think the last one I went to was, remember when they had shepherds for 4 days? It was all about the inerrancy of the Bible.
I remember that. I didn't attend that one, but I
That,
remember
that,
it.
that was
Yeah.
my last one. That was my last one. And I remember just saying to myself, man, the 4 day one is actually a little bit too long. It's a little bit too long. But I'm really happy I went to that one because I don't know if you remember they brought in like all these reform speakers. Sinclair Ferguson was there. Alistair Begg was there. So that was a big one. That was a big one. But
Yeah.
that was the last time I went. I miss Shepherds a lot actually, but I can never go because, being at Saddleback now, it's like right before Easter, and it's crazy time for us to get Easter prep ready and to try to get like 4 or 5 days off. It's too hard, man. It's too hard.
Yeah, for,
What was the last one you went to?
honestly, I don't remember. Was it like Christ something?
Oh yeah,
Sufficiency of
yeah,
Christ or something?
yeah.
I don't remember.
I,
I remember seeing you every time in the bookstore, even times where we're not supposed to be in there. So
Hey, don't tell anyone about that. Okay, honestly though, I only did that once. I visited Shepherd's to go to the bookstore. I didn't go to the conference. I only did that once. But yeah, man, come on. Getting those books, that was always a fun time. That's kind of like the fun thing that pastors
yes.
do. Um, but hey, dude, like you just had a baby, right?
I did. We had baby number two.
Okay.
His name's Micah. He's about three
Micah,
months now.
nice,
Yeah.
nice. And how was your first?
First is 2.5.
2.5.
So
Okay.
2.5 years old. So I have a daughter named Haley.
Okay. So you have a daughter and a boy now, Micah. Okay, 3 months. So
Right.
how's the sleep schedule?
Oh man. It's tiring. I mean, by God's grace, he's not that difficult because Haley, she woke up a bunch of times every single night, but we probably wake up a few times at most. And I think he's getting better. I mean, he's up to a transition point again, so we'll see. But my wife and I are definitely tired all the time. And Haley, we love her to death, but she's in her terrible twos. So just, unregenerate right now, right? So, so,
Regenerate.
so the sin nature is definitely there and brings out our sin nature, and but we teach her all about Jesus. I mean, he's our only hope.
When you have babies, the theology of original sin just comes so alive, so alive, man. I have our third. She was born on Christmas Day, 2019, and none of my kids, all three kids, man, never slept well. We just every time when we had the second, my wife and I were like, I hope she sleeps well. She didn't sleep well, and this third one, same thing, dude. Just didn't sleep well. And I always tell Hannah again, theological stuff. I'm like, dude, we were probably sinners while dating, dude. Like God is totally disciplining us right now. So
That's crazy.
not sleeping well either. But
Yeah.
yo, like during this crazy wild time, you and I have never experienced this before. How are you doing? How's your wife, and how are you guys like coping with all this transitioning with all this stuff?
I think we're doing okay. You know, I mean, we're we're just rolling with it, you know, and I think it's been hard. I mean, we're going through, I think, what everybody's going through, the whole work at home thing, me being on a million calls or Google Meeting calls, and her being at home and needing my help at times, but knowing that I'm on the computer, kids running around, lacking sleep. So I think that's what a lot of parents with young children are going through, or children in school. Now, I mean, most school districts are going to be closed. So the whole thing about the kids and the kids missing out on developmental activities too, like going to church, being able to go to activities at the library. I mean, so that's been challenging to that. Our daughter, I mean, 2.5, but she knows like, oh, we got to wear a mask. Oh, oh, we can't go to the store, or she can't do something because of coronavirus. So every time we're like, do you want to pray? She's like, thank you, God, for coronavirus. Well, no, 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 no. That's not how it works. Oh, and then we taught her, and then she says, dear God, please make coronavirus go away. So I mean, that's what it is. And church has just been crazy. It's been up and down, right? I mean, talks of reopening and nothing. Now we're closed
Yeah,
again.
I mean, now we're
New
going
ministry cycle.
back to what it was like in March and April. Man,
Yeah.
were you guys meeting like the pre-registration, doing the whole kind of like taking 50 ad people at a time for service? Were you guys doing that?
No, we shut down. We shut down the week where Governor Newsom first called the lockdown. When the NBA closed down, we closed down, and we had plans to reopen this coming Sunday as a soft opening, just for the leadership for all three language congregations, and obviously limited to. We were going to limit it to indoor under 100 per service, and we did the surveys. The surveys came back, indicated that there was a group that really wanted to come back, but the majority of obviously our young families as well as young adults who live with their parents, they're not coming back, and those who are susceptible. So we kind of said, okay, we still always got to prepare some type of online virtual content. But this Sunday was going to be our first soft reopening, and our official reopening was going to be the first Sunday of August. So that's all suspended now.
Well,
We're back online.
Well, dude, because I wrote a blog post recently, and I think, to be honest, I think it's a good thing that you didn't do the reopening, because I talked about it's kind of a momentum killer to do the soft opening and then have to going back to all digital, you know? So I was writing in my blog like, don't rush into reopening even though everyone wants it, because this is the exact reason. Now everything's shut back down. Man, that's a momentum killer, you know? People get excited and now they got to go back.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the funny thing is that we're a Chinese church with three congregations, so there's some different cultural views about the importance of physical gathering versus online gathering. And so guess what? I mean now that the reopening task force has reshifted their focus on outdoor services. So and the pastors are all going to support this, and we're going to lead it. So now we're trying to do Saturday and Sunday, 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. and then Sunday the same. So Saturday 8 a.m. and 5 p.m., Sunday 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. because of the heat, and not so
Yeah.
much setting up chairs, man, but like trying to get the FM broadcast into the radio. So almost like kind of like drive-in, and
Yeah.
so they're working on that. So, so I guess now, and to be honest, I do think people who maybe wanted to come back for some sense of gathering, but were more susceptible or more fearful. But if they were willing to go to the park and social distance with a mask on, I think they may now feel more comfortable driving in their cars or standing outside of their cars. So I don't know.
Okay, so your plan, if you guys can't do it, is to do four services then, Saturday and Sunday.
Four services, and so this would be two English services and one Cantonese Chinese, one Mandarin Chinese, because English is our largest group, and then we would also provide the some type of live stream. So they're going to work on that, like how that's going to work. Are they going to live stream the outdoor service, or are we going to pre-record in addition to doing the drive-in? So that's what we're all working on now.
Well, yeah, I think you have to have some sort of digital service, whether it's live or pre-recorded. I mean, I hope
Mhm.
churches recognize that even if like we found a cure and vaccine tomorrow, the digital thing shouldn't stop. Like you should continue doing it.
Correct. Yeah, correct.
All right, all right. What do you like? How are you and your wife and kids like? Do you guys go out at all? Are you guys like, going to Yogaland or anything like that with masks on and stuff?
No, I mean for the kids because they're so young. I mean, we take them to the park,
Okay, so you're
and
going to the park.
run
Okay.
around a little bit. Um, we're taking walks during the first lockdown, and we're able to keep our distance, have our mask on. In LA County, it's not frowned upon to wear a mask. In
Right.
Orange County, I mean, no one's wearing a mask.
Right.
And then by God's grace, my in-laws live 5 minutes away, and so we go there a lot. They have a bigger space and they have a swimming pool, so we take our 2.5-year-old. We take her swimming,
Oh, that's
and
nice.
so that's like a little relief for her. But then my wife and I, we take turns kind of running errands because one of us is always with the kids,
Yeah.
and that's about it. I'll come to church here and there.
Is your wife
Yeah,
working? She's working full time?
she's on paid maternity leave. So she took paid maternity leave. Then she had to go back for a little bit, and now she's taken like another segment of it, and probably in a week or two she has to go back.
Okay.
So yeah.
Yeah, dude, for us, Hannah, she thankfully is able to work from home a couple of days a week, but she still has to go in like 2 or 3 days a week. But man, dude, when we're all here at the house, it's like 12-hour days because we're constantly rotating. One of us is working, or one of us is taking care of the baby, or one of us is taking care of the other two kids because they can't make lunch and breakfast and stuff like that. So, man, the days are long, bro. The days are long. But yeah, for
Yeah.
us, I don't know. I'm just playing real safe for the baby. So when you said park, I was like, dude, we don't even do that. We don't even go take walks at the park. Well, the thing that I do is because we live in an apartment complex, so I'll take Matthew and Haven out sometimes, and then he rides a scooter. And Haven doesn't want to walk; she just sits in a stroller. But we'll just ride around inside the apartment complex.
Yeah, hey, that's better. You got to get the kids out. That's I think that's the
Get some
thing.
vitamin D.
So yeah,
But when
yeah, for
but when
sure.
you guys all go out, you guys are all masking up.
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, sometimes if we're at the park and then there's nobody like 2,000 feet of us or something like that, then obviously if we're running around and I'll kick a soccer ball around with my daughter, and then we'll have our mask off. But she has her mask. She has this little tiny mask. The baby's usually ergoed, so
Ah,
that's the thing. So the baby's usually ergoed and protected in that way.
yeah.
But I mean, we play it on the cautious side. I mean, that's just I think that's, I don't know if it's an Asian thing, but all of our friends are on the more cautious side as well. In our churches. So we're definitely wearing our masks.
Dude, I get scared about my baby, man, Like for the
Yeah.
baby to get sick right now and then the thought of having to go to a hospital right now. Like I don't know if you know, but my 6 month old she has hypothyroidism. So her thyroid
Wow.
is something about how it doesn't function or it over
Right.
functions.
Right.
So she takes this medicine, but we still have to go in like every 6 weeks to get blood work done for her. And so my
Yeah.
wife Hannah just took her in last week to get blood work, and I'm like, oh man, the last place I want her to go to is a hospital right now.
Yeah.
So it's just nerve wracking for
Yeah.
me.
Man, that's crazy. So you have to go to an actual hospital, not like a medical office?
Well, again, I get it depends on what your insurance is, but Kaiser they shut down like
Yeah, we
all.
have
Oh,
Kaiser.
dude. So remember,
Yeah.
like for almost 2 months, they shut down like almost all their medical offices. So
Right. You have to go to like a non-COVID
right, right,
one.
right.
Right.
But then even before that, that non-COVID stuff, they almost for a month, that main Anaheim Kaiser Hospital, that was the only thing that was open. So Hannah had to go there one time to the Anaheim the legit full out hospital.
Right. Right. Right.
And
Yeah.
then like the Brea one, it's like 2 minutes from our apartment, but it was closed. And then now they start slowly opening up their medical offices. But dude, This is such crazy stuff that's going on right now,
It
man.
is. It is.
But
It is, man.
but that's what I think about, man. I think about my baby. Like, gosh, the last thing I want, even my kids, to get sick. What are you guys planning on doing when fall comes around? Did you guys used to send Haley into daycare or anything like that?
No, no. So my mother-in-law helps us out because they live so
Blessed. That's
close,
awesome.
and then being a pastor, I can work from home, which means I don't get any work done until nighttime. But you know,
Hey, but that's
yeah,
awesome, man.
but
You're blessed.
but yeah, man, I like there was a time where it was like 3 days or 2 and 3/4 days or something like that. I was stay-at-home dad, but I think that experience was good for me. Definitely definitely appreciating moms and wives who stay home and raise the children. Yeah, so it's between me, my wife, and my mother-in-law basically balancing our schedule. And Haley, she's not at that preschool age yet, but we were seriously thinking about it, pre-COVID. Now it's probably out of the question.
When Matthew was born, I was still teaching as an adjunct at Biola, and I was basically watching him every day because my classes weren't until nighttime. So Hannah would come home,
Wow.
and then I would leave. And so for almost 10 or 11 months, because that's when we started sending him to daycare, that was me, man. I took care of him all day, every day. And so I actually loved that time. It was really, I mean, of course it was hard, but I mean, just spending that time with him, it was the best. I think that's why, like, I'm so close with him because I was literally with him for like the first year of his life every day. So I kind of like, I'm a homebody. I don't know about you, but I love staying at home, dude. I love it.
Yeah. Dude, did you ever take your kids anywhere like where it's all moms and you're the only dad and you feel weird? But then it starts a conversation and I was able to tell people, "Oh, I'm a pastor." It's the funniest thing. Like I take my daughter to the library to the little library class and I'm like
Yeah.
the only guy, and they're just like, "Does this guy not
Yeah.
work?" You know?
The only two times that happened was when I used to go to the Brea Mall, and then I'm like the only dad there with this kid, in the stroller in the kids section or the kids like clothes stores. And then another time was I went to the library once too. Yeah, it's just like all moms. So, but no one ever sparked a conversation with me. I should just done it. I should have just evangelized like Jonathan Edwards, just Enfield style. Oh man, but that's good, man. I'm glad your family's doing well, and I'm glad you guys are staying safe. That's good stuff. Good stuff, um, dude. What do you think about like all the what is it, racism and violence against Asians because of the virus? I had a friend of mine. This happened like 2 months ago now, but she was taking her daughters to the grocery store, and she said that like some white lady called her daughters, like her daughter was like 5 or 6 years old, called her daughters a virus. And I'm just like, what the heck is going on? Like, what do you think about that, man?
Yeah, man. I mean, obviously, I mean, racism's real. It's a result of human sin, and it's out there. And in some ways, I feel like for me personally, I've been sheltered in some sense because one, we live in Southern California, and in LA County, and I'm in Walnut, California. And before that, I lived in Walnuts, Chino Hills, grew up in Hacienda Heights, and so I'm just basically surrounded by Asians. And so I think there's less of that type of language or that type of experience, at least here. But definitely, being when I went to undergrad at Biola, where it's predominantly a white school, I mean, there wasn't overt racism, but there were some conversations that were pretty weird or certain perceptions that people had, and people would make comments. But I know for certain, maybe closer to where your church is at, like South Orange County. I mean, I know for certain that type of feeling is there, and it's expressed. So I think for me, I think we got to just raise our kids in a certain way where we prepare them and explain to them, look, here's why racism exists. Obviously, we ourselves have to be honest about our own prejudice, but we got to teach our kids, like, here's why racism exists, um, because of sin. Here's how the gospel frees us, so that we can recognize that it's not right, but that we don't become angry. Instead, we understand that this person may or may not have Jesus that's being racist, or this kid or their parents, or whatever, and then allow the gospel to give us the freedom to just, be an agent of peace and to love people rather than become angry. I think it's kind of inevitable, but I feel really bad for people in other states, in other states where there's not so many Asians. I mean, it's definitely there. And for better or worse, it's an election year, and we're Chinese church, so we kind of talk about it at the pastoral level. And nothing for or against President Trump, but I mean, when he uses certain rhetoric towards China, people listening to that, I mean, they're going to take that, and it's going to have negative repercussions on Asians. So we know that's coming, and we're kind of afraid of that.
What's wrong with that guy, man? Can you ask him, please? Can you call him up and just be like, dude, what's wrong with you, dude? Like, how on earth can you think that this is okay to say?
I know. Yeah.
What the heck? And he said it. I don't know if you saw that, not the first rally, but the second rally at the church in Arizona. By the way, like, I don't know why that church did that. Like, I don't know why you'd open your church for a Republican rally. But for him to say it again, and I don't know if you heard it, but people were shouting it in the crowds. They were shouting out like, Kung Flu, Kung Flu. I was like,
Yeah.
dude, this is, oh man, I don't know what's wrong with him, man. That guy, but hey, I pray for that guy. I don't know if you pray for him, but I pray for him, man. I'm like, dude, that guy, he needs massive prayer. He needs like a change of heart.
Right. Yeah.
This whole year is crazy, not just with the virus, but yeah, it's election year. So it's like tense multiplied by 3. The tension because of the virus, the tension because of the election, and then now all this racial justice. Man, it's crazy. At your church, how are people, or how are you and like Terrence, how you guys like addressing it? Like, I've seen some of your Facebook videos, you guys are talking about it and doing Bible studies and preaching on it, but other than teaching, because almost every Asian church, like, they're doing a series right now on racial justice, okay? But other than preaching and teaching, which I love and I think it's central to the service and everything, but are there other ways that you guys are addressing it or talking about it with your church?
Honestly, we're at that point of just dealing with the intergenerational difference and how to have that conversation. So we haven't formally talked about it on the pulpit, and so with our church, we're actually so if you consider just the English congregation, we have a huge demography that's 50 years old or older, and they are Christian, they are Republican, they'll let you know, and they follow all of the conservative commentary, they follow Jack Hibbs. And so there was a lot of, Pastor reopened the church, look what Calvary Chapel is doing, and there's a lot of so there's a lot of that type of political message. So definitely when it came to BLM and protests, you're going to have parents who, have a lack of empathy at a certain point, right? They're going to, and so whereas you have the younger generation that's more empathetic, right, and sympathetic, and whether they understand or not, they feel like it's important. And we had a few young adults who would actually go protest, and so that would create a lot of conflict within the generations. And so that's why we had to do all of our forums offline, basically not from the pulpit, but we had one after church, kind of a Google pastor forum where all ended, and then I had a lot of one-to-one conversations with people about all the different topics, defining terms, what we mean by this term, systemic racism, what we don't mean by it, et cetera, et cetera. And so for me, it's been a learning curve. I mean, I've just ignorant to how much hurt, our Black American brothers and sisters have gone through. So the first, month or right after George Floyd's death. I mean, that first month was just me studying and reading things that I never read before, stuff they never assigned to us in seminary, and then talking to one or two black pastor friends and just saying, hey, what's the best way we can care, or what can we do? So we're barely scratching the surface. And the honest truth is, a lot of Chinese churches, at least, haven't really talked about it much. But the Korean American churches, that it's more prevalent in terms of actually addressing the issue of racism.
Yeah, you cut out there a little bit, but I just want to repeat it because I want people to know the very it's a challenge, but I don't want to just say challenge, but it's actually unique. It's a unique situation you're in because there's a lot of Korean churches that are not at where you guys are at, which is this 3 generation kind of audience that you guys have. When you're talking about that, I just reminded me like, oh man, I forgot your church. It's like a long timeline of life there, and so trying to deal with that huge timeline around this topic must be pretty wild. And like you said, yeah, dude, they don't teach you this in seminary, man. There's no Greek word, no parsing that
Yeah,
even Bill Mounts can do
yeah,
to
yeah.
help you with this. So that's pretty wild. I think for Koreans though, we kind of also can go back to the LA riots, with all that stuff that happened in K Town, and so a lot of this brings up just our own personal history, what's going on. But wait a minute, did you watch that George Floyd video? Did you watch it?
I did. Yeah,
Man,
I did watch.
when it took me a long time to watch that, but man, just watching it, it was disgusting, but it was just eerie because one part of my brain, I was like, dude, this is like a movie, man. Like just watching that. And then as soon as I realized like this is real life, and man, just hearing him cry out, I was like, oh, this is nasty, man. Just on a scary level, like nasty, Like what were you thinking when you were watching it?
I basically I try to just look at it objectively, because by the time I saw it, there's all kinds of comments and everything, against police officers and everything. And I just looked at it. I said, you know what? I have friends that are police officers, and they would straight condemn this type of action. And so I had all these thoughts of excessive force. And I said, look, I don't know the background. I don't know if he was dangerous. I didn't see the rest of the videos, but it seems like he's down. Do you really have to rest your knee on a man's neck for that long? Or should you even be putting your foot on a man's neck? See, I understand that, if you're dealing with someone that's stronger than you and they're reaching for your weapon, and I don't think this was the case with George Floyd, then there has to be some type of way to restrain a person. But then there's ways that you probably don't, that are way excessive, and it seemed like he was already down, and that's what I was thinking. And the whole time I was thinking, this is murder. This is straight murder. And because a lot of times when I do talk to police officer friends, there's a lot of pressure, and I just try to envision being in their position, and having to make a split-second decision, and they're already filled with stress, and I can understand if someone's coming at you, and your life flashes in front of you, what are you going to do, right? This was not that case. This was not, running into a dark backyard and someone has a weapon and you're not sure what type of weapon it is. This was that was my thought, and my heart broke. Um, and my heart broke. And so I try to separate the politics from it, and I saw a diverse police crew. So I saw that there was, Derek Chauvin, but there's a black guy. It seemed like maybe a Hispanic guy, and the Asian guy, right? The Hmong, the Hmong officer. So, and then I was thinking, why doesn't he do anything? Why aren't the other officers? And this is before all the rest of the stories come out. But why doesn't someone stop this? So those were my thoughts.
Have you talked to anyone at your church about uh, not just George Floyd, but all of it? Breonna Taylor, Ahmed Arbery. What's crazy is that this all kind of, well, I don't want to say it all started, but the initial kind of mess with Ahmed Arbery. I remember that I was actually thinking about making a video about my thoughts on Ahmaud Arbery. I was like gonna do a vlog on my YouTube channel, and I remember as I was writing my thoughts down, and then this George Floyd thing came out, and I was like, what the heck? So obviously I was like, okay, I can't do that anymore because now this happened, and then it started coming out one after another. But that Ahmaud Arbery one, the crazy thing about that is, man, that happened like 2 months before it even surfaced to the public news. Dude, that is wild, dude. Like, what do you think about that?
You mean the lag time or what
Yeah,
happened?
no, both. But like, just the fact that, like, unless that video came out, I felt like nothing would have happened, you know. But when that
Yeah.
video came out, I thought like, oh, dude, this is crazy. This sucks. And then I find out, what the heck? This is like 2 months old. This is crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. No, definitely. I think when I watched that video, I thought that was crazy. I mean, regardless of there were videos that came out afterwards, right, showing that he kind of trespassed one of the trespassers,
Yeah.
and they
Oh,
were looking
dude,
for
just
someone
the
like that.
house. Oh,
You
oh,
know?
oh,
Yeah,
that
right. That
the
empty
house thing.
house
I
thing,
was
right?
like, what? Who
So
cares about that?
so I would say regardless of that, I mean, the guy's jogging, and you approach him with the car, and I don't know if they hit him or not, but then to just come out and gun a guy down, that's just ridiculous, horrible, horrendous. And then for the lag time, I just thought that was, I don't know, I'm still processing my thoughts on the whole thing because, like you said, by the time it came out, and then soon after, George Floyd happened. So my thought process went back to look at, what is systemic racism, because that word itself, knowing the racism exists, um, that word itself was new to me. So in the last 2 months was when I did all the study. And I think what was most helpful for me was talking to one black pastor friend in particular, who is solid, sound. He's theologically just where we are at, same. And hearing from him, and him saying, as a pastor, being mistakenly pulled over or stopped, just minding his own business because of how he looked, and he's not even that angry about it. He's like, well, this is how it is.
Right.
And here's what we can do to help. And so then learning and asking him, hey, what can I do? What can I read? Then of course there's a lot of videos out there to watch, and then maybe talking to one other, and videos like even the conversation you had with Ray Cosley. I mean, that was powerful,
Man, that
in
was
terms
so
of
good, huh? Some of the stuff he
being
was saying.
informative.
Yeah.
So I mean, this stuff now for me, it's the very first time having to face it, deal with it, realize that it's true, weed out the media stuff on both sides, and then having conversations with a very conservative church, especially young adults, and help and pointing them towards, okay, look, because a lot of our young people and a lot of our people are just listening to the conservative commentary. So they're listening to the black conservative commentary. And so I'll always say, okay, there are some facts that you can take from there, but we need to have empathy. So you're not going to throw those stats at some Christian brother who's Black American that's hurting, or Christian sister, or even a non-Christian. So here's some stuff to read. And it's very interesting to me that a lot of times the Christians, when they're sharing the Black conservative commentary stuff, I'm not saying it's bad, but it's secular. And when you're looking for gospel-centered, reformed, even if you want to go that route, but gospel-centered resources, you're going to deal with people who are Black American Christians who are writing about systemic racism, and you have to have an open mind to read that and just listen and just learn. And so that's where that was eye-opening for me, that there's more overtly Christian literature on one end versus the conservative commentary, which is more secular, and just having our people say, okay, if you're going to read one, you need to read the other side and to see both, and then so that's my goal, is to get some of our older generation to a point of empathy for the sake of the gospel, and then for the younger ones to just have discernment.
What are some of the books that you've been reading?
Dude, the one that was most helpful, I want to say it's like 20 years old, Divided by Faith, by the names, I know the last names are Smith and Emerson, but it's two sociologists, These are white sociologists, and they're just talking about the divide in evangelicalism between white and black, and how evangelicalism how we've tried to deal with this. And so, being from an Asian church context, we're kind of like on the outside, but it's interesting to look at the conversation. I thought that was immensely helpful. Color of Compromise by what is it, Tisby? That one's recommended a lot. That was very helpful. I read is it Disunity in Christ by Christina Cleveland, Eric Mason's Woke Church.
Everyone's reading that one, dude. Everyone's reading that.
And then there are ones like I don't mind saying it on here, but and some of our church members will hear this, but maybe if I recommend. So here's the thing: if I recommended some of these resources to our church members, not all of these people, these authors are conservative where we are at. Whether it's complementarian or whatever labels we want to throw on, right? And so they may stumble by reading some of it, or they're going to say, is this a form of critical race theory? And so I think that's where it's for me to learn, then distill it to them. But for the mature reader, I would recommend it to them. And then I read portions of Kendi's, Stamped from the Beginning. And that's a non-Christian title. And I think some of our members, I don't know if they're ready to read something like that. And the way I'm reading it is just really to learn and to understand without judgment, right? In the same way that I would read the other conservative books, that are saying statements like systemic racism doesn't exist, right? Coming from a black conservative economics professor, So if our people are going to read one thing, I just want them to read the other side as well, and then make a discerning decision. But I still think the most helpful thing for a Christian is to go talk to, or if you don't know anyone, listen to a black American pastor that you would respect as quote unquote conservative, right? That's what I would tell our people. Listen to their story. That's more powerful than anything, Well,
I think what you said though is just so key right now with politics and this whole issue, and that is just to read with an open mind. I mean, I think what you're doing is such a good example, because you're actually doing research for just to learn, but you're doing research reading Christian and non-Christian stuff, because you're trying to read different perspectives, different angles, hearing both sides of the argument. I mean, I've been saying this for years, but man, somewhere in the past 10 or 15 years, we've lost discernment. There's just like no discernment anymore. Like one tweet is like all of a sudden like equal to like some peer-reviewed medical journal, and I'm like, what the heck? Who is this? Who is ladies man 217, at whatever twitter.com. I'm like, you believe what this guy says just because he has 1 million followers? It's insane. It's like so insane. What's crazy is when there are people who are like saying that racism is not real. I'm like, dude, what planet do you live on? What planet do you live on? Have you ever read any of Alexander Jun's books, like White Jesus, White Out? Have you read? I think there's like 3 parts now. He has like a trilogy.
Yeah, I saw. I haven't, but I'm interested in reading those.
Yeah.
I haven't gotten to the Asian authors yet. But I definitely. I know Alex and respect him, and he's definitely holding it down for us.
I know,
man.
And
his personality is great too.
Yo, like, were you at the West Coast?
I was
okay, dude. So
I missed out on that.
He oh gosh, so many thoughts on that, the Asian American pre-conference. But he gave like this. It wasn't even a sermon. They called it. Oh my gosh, I forgot what they called it. I think they called it a talk. And he like went up there for 15 minutes. Dude, I had no idea who this guy was. Right? Comes up, tie, vest, with these like red cowboy shoes. Right? And dude, I promise you, this is probably going to be an insult to him, but when I was listening to him, I was like, dude, this sounds like me, man. Like everything he was saying, I was like, he's like reading my mind right now, And then I had the pleasure, he was on one of my video podcasts, and I've gotten to know him real well. And so, no, for real, man, when you say holding it down, dude, he's like he is on every Zoom call. He is on every panel, and he's sharing his thoughts. No, yeah, he's great, man. He's great. Oh man. So does it irk you at all? Because it kind of irks me, but does it irk you at all? Like with all this violence against Asians, like it never makes the news. Like we just read about it on Facebook, like straight up people beating up like elderly Asians. I'm like, dude, what? What the heck? How come this is not on the news? I don't know. That just irks me.
Yeah, I mean it's just it's sad. I mean, I try to look at it objectively too. It's because we're Asian. If a white elderly person gets beat up, would it make it on? If a black elderly person got beat up, it would probably eventually nowadays. Uh, with the Asians, I think it's sad. I'm still thinking through it. How much of it is based on us buying into the whole model minority idea and being okay with it? When you think of vocal Asian Americans, and some people may hate me for saying this, but when you're thinking about people who are very, very vocal, at least in the last 20 years, you're talking about liberals, right? More on the liberal end. But most Asians are, especially the immigrant generation, or if our parents were immigrants, were naturally more conservative just culturally. And so I think for us Asians, it's kind of like, okay, I don't have to be CEO, I don't have to be face of the company. If I can make enough money to have the American dream, I'll take that. I'll settle for that. And we've taught our kids, just study hard, go to school, get a good job. You don't have to be a superstar, just make it. And so as long as our comfort isn't touched upon, we're not going to get out and protest or fight unless you're one of the really vocal liberal Asian Americans, and that's rare, right? So not too many not too many Asians from our circles would really get into politics too. So I wonder how much of that is we as Asians aren't really as vocal fighting for rights. We're okay, because we're not oppressed. We're not heavily oppressed, so we're okay with the bamboo ceiling. And maybe because of that, you know, maybe things don't get reported. You know how it is. Sometimes where Asians, bad stuff happens, they don't even want to report it.
Right.
They rather just not
Well, it's the
not
whole
have any publicity.
it's the
Yeah,
whole honor shame culture, right? I mean, it
correct.
goes back to first century Jews. We're very similar. It's don't bring shame upon the family. It is better to sweep things under the rug than to get justice. That's what our culture is.
Right.
And I've been kind of focused on this a lot for these past couple of months, just really talking about Asian American leadership and our voice and everything you just said. By the way, I think is correct. I totally agree with you. Just maybe it's because we just never report things, and that's just the way it is. We just want to keep our head down, play defense, and just don't cause trouble. Right? That's kind of the typical way. That's the way I was raised. You don't speak against authority, right? I think
Correct.
thinking about that for these past couple of months, I've been really focused on just Asian American leadership, especially in the church, and how we gotta play offense, man. We gotta learn how to play offense, and I think it's up to like me and you and all of our peers that are in ministry right now to kind of change the way we used to raise up leaders, which was mostly the same way, right? Just listen to what I say, do what I tell you to do, and then once I give you approval, that's when you're ready. I think we
Right.
gotta. I think that's one of the main reasons why, though, we're so quiet in the church. That's one of the reasons, because that's how we were raised, even in our leadership, right? We don't really take risks. We don't like to, again, we play it safe, right? Play it safe. I don't know. Do you think I'm off on that? I've been thinking about that, or I write about that a lot too. But what do you think about just Asian leadership and just raising our voice?
Yeah, no, I think it's true that, for Asians sometimes even in our churches, right? Like if you have an Asian they may not want to be too vocal. They need to be called upon.
Right.
They don't want to be upfront. So for example, I mean, when you think about Asians, I mean, you're leading us in many ways, and COVID forced a lot of Asian pastors to come out of our shell. But when you're white and you're in a white church and a white culture, it is okay to platform yourself. It is not seen as egocentric to start a blog, to start your own podcast, to share your own videos, to write a book, and then to talk about it and share it. People see that as career advancement. It's honorable, actually. But in an Asian church, in an Asian setting, for some Asians, if we began to do that, some, depending on what generation they are from, might be thinking, okay, this person's trying to build their own platform.
Yeah.
They're no longer the servant of God.
Yeah.
Are they representing the church, or are they themselves? And I think that's a cultural thing. It is, and that contributes to things. And when you look at Asians, if you will, Koreans are naturally more and more passionate and are going to express themselves. Again, I'm using generalizations. And you look at the Chinese church. I mean, we're doing a lot of things, but we kind of just are okay doing it under the radar, and we're not out there platforming ourselves. I can't, outside of Francis Chan, he's unique, he's different, but outside of, I can't think of like another, maybe one will come to mind, but a serious Chinese equivalent to a Eugene Cho or something like that.
I was. Do you know Wilson Wang? Do you know who Wilson Wang is?
Yes, Wilson. Yeah, we
Yeah.
grew up together playing ball, man.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he
Yeah.
he was on my podcast a couple of months ago, but offline we were talking, and I remember we were talking about that. I was like, dude, who? Like, seriously, tell me, who are the Chinese? Like, yeah, Eugene Cho's and stuff like that. Tell me who are they? I don't even know who they are. And he was saying the kind of same thing as you. He was like, I don't know, there's not really too many.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think like right now, during this time, especially right now, man, more Asian pastors and leaders need to start raising that voice. And I think what's really key is is really trying to help those that are like more in their 20s to start practicing how to do that. I don't know if you follow Dave Ferguson at all, out from Exponential, but
Yeah. Yeah.
he's doing like the series right now, like a 5-part series on hero makers. Hero makers is kind of like their thing about how to,
Yeah. For sure. Yeah.
right. And so he just tweeted out this one thing about how, like, yeah, right now is the time where the senior leaders are not the ones who are always platforming themselves. Right now, senior leaders need to basically take the 20s and 30s people and let them be on the platform. And I wholeheartedly believe that, and I think right now is the perfect time for Asian churches to start doing that, investing into the younger folks who, again, they're waiting, like, because they think that's what's most respectful, right? You don't raise your hand, that's prideful.
Right.
And I hope more churches can do that. Hey, I always ask this to everyone who's on here, but let's pretend that CBS, ABC, NBC, Fox, CNN somehow came to your church right now, put a bunch of cameras on you, and were like, hey, Pastor Hanley, can you just give us one message or one sermon? And like, millions of people are watching. What would be the sermon, or what would be the message that you would preach right now? What would you say?
Man. Okay. Well, considering that California is locked down right now and a lot of churches are discouraged, I would go with Colossians 1, 15 to 20 for several reasons. One, the gospel, the full gospel is in there. I mean, in terms of Christ and who he is, and him being the image of the invisible God, firstborn of all creation, all the way down to the blood of his cross being at the end of verse 19. So I would definitely want to preach the gospel. But the key in there that I think is relevant right now is that Jesus is the head of the church. So Jesus is the head of the church. Not the governor's order, not the governor, not the president, not any guidance that we're waiting for. Jesus loves his bride, and Jesus loves his body more than any of us will ever love the church. And if he died for the church, and he promised that the gates of Hades will not overcome it until he comes back, he knows what he's doing. And he will gather his church. So I think we need to look to him, trust him, be sober, not be fearful, but really anchor ourselves down on the gospel. And I'm hoping that if really that's like, hey, people are like, if you're saying this is the message I got to preach, then maybe I can get the gospel out to anyone who's non-Christian. That's what I would say. Colossians 1, 15 to 20 off the top of my head. Right
the
now.
supremacy of Christ, spoken like a true Reformed man. I don't know if the Talbot people are going to like that, but no, I'm kidding. But all your Reformed buddies are probably going to love that, all right? All your Sola buddies. But preaching the gospel, of course. No, great passage, though. I love it, man. It is a great thing that needs to be focused and preached on. Jesus is head of the church. So I love that, man. Hey, I want to close out here to plug your church. So let's say someone is looking for First Baptist Church of Walnut, First Chinese Baptist Church of Walnut.
First Chinese Baptist Church of Walnut.
Where can they find you? Website, YouTube? What time is your digital service at?
Website is fcbc.org. If you Google, Baptist Church in Walnut, Chinese Church in Walnut, it'll come up. And but you'll find most of the information on our social media. So a lot of the updates are Facebook. So there's a FCBC Walnut is at First Chinese Baptist Church Walnut. There's a green logo. We have an Instagram. We have a social media guy that takes care of all this. So that's what I would say. We are on Instagram, but that's more for one group or one segment of the generations. But Facebook, we're pretty active on there. We have a Facebook premiere worship service that premieres at 10:45, just because that's our regular English worship service time. And for now, that's going to be ongoing until we figure out what we're going to do. But we have our YouTube site as well. I'm not sure what the tag for that is, but we have a YouTube channel where all of our sermons from all of our language congregations and all of our devotionals and everything eventually makes it onto there. So you can find us everywhere.
So your weekend services are being shown on the Facebook group right now?
Now there's a Facebook premiere on the First Chinese Baptist Church Facebook page, but there's only a segment of people that want to go on Facebook and watch that and watch it together. That is the purest. That's like a full service, so you can watch it. It's everybody else worships by separate links on YouTube. So that link is made available every Sunday morning, pre-recorded sermons and announcements and so forth, and that's on our YouTube channel.
And we're talking about the EM right now, right? I'm not talking about like the Cantonese service. We're talking about like
it's all together. So the EM.
Okay.
EM, but then it's two young adult English guys that are putting the videos together for the whole church.
Okay.
And it's so we have different, but yes, so the Cantonese and Mandarin do not do the Facebook premiere.
Okay.
That's only.
So for anyone who's watching, in the YouTube description below, I will put links to First Chinese Baptist Church of Walnut, and you guys can connect with them there. Pastor Hanley is probably preaching there, and it's solid church. Go check it out, and I'll put the Facebook group page in there as well. But hey, man, thanks for spending some time with me, and I'm glad you're doing well, and you're looking great, man. You're looking great. Tell me what secret juice you're drinking, okay, to help you not age and look good. Don't go anywhere, man. I'm going to sign off of here. But for those of you guys who are watching, thanks for spending some time with us. And please leave comments down below, you guys, in the YouTube description, questions or thoughts or things that you want me to talk about in my next podcast. And I hope you guys are all doing well. All right. Thanks, guys.
I ain't really changed like they thought I would. It's like another day in the good. Laid back sipping. Sun rays on the pad. Ain't no worries when you're winning. Ain't no way to be mad. Cookout vibe. Got the whole fam present. Life is a blessing. Thankful for every second. Best foot forward. I'm two-stepping. Best kept secret. I'm two weapons. Who weapon but I know about it, baby. Thankful for the